Jordan Peterson just gave the most accurate psychological breakdown of why Andrew Tate captures millions of young men, but he missed the most sinister part of the story. Peterson sees a complex psychological phenomenon where desperate men seek shadow integration through a controversial figure. What he doesn't see is that Tate engineered this entire dynamic as a business model. This isn't about masculinity or psychology. It's about a master manipulator who's been extracting money from vulnerable men for over a decade, first through webcam scams, now through masculinity courses. Peterson decoded why Tate works, but he failed to realize that Tate decoded it first and built an empire around exploiting it. By the end of this video, you'll understand that the Andrew Tate phenomenon isn't a cultural movement. It's the most sophisticated psychological grift ever created.
I mean, part of the reason that people like Andrew Tate are so attractive to young guys is because they do put up that confident, that false confidence.
Peterson nails the psychology here, but he's looking at it backwards. He thinks Tate accidentally stumbled into this false confidence that happens to appeal to young men. The reality is far more calculating. Before Tate became the masculinity guru, he was running webcam operations where his business model was literally built around understanding male psychology and extracting money from lonely, desperate men. He spent years studying what makes men open their wallets, their insecurities, their fantasies, their emotional triggers. The false confidence Peterson identifies isn't a personality quirk. It's a carefully crafted product designed to hit specific psychological buttons that Tate knows will make men spend money. He beta tested this entire persona on webcam customers who were paying hundreds of dollars for the illusion of connection with women. Now he's using the same psychological manipulation techniques, just selling masculinity instead of female attention.
Tate's a complicated guy because it's not all false, you know? Real people are complicated the way that like villains in comic books aren't. Tate's a fighter. It's clearly the case that he's got a certain degree of physical bravery. That's real.
This is where Peterson's academic perspective blinds him to the grift. Yes, Tate was a kickboxer, but look at how he leverages that credential. Every piece of content, every course, every pitch includes references to his fighting background because he understands it provides instant credibility with his target market. He's not just sharing his experience, he's weaponizing it as a marketing tool. The fighting credibility gives him permission to charge thousands for courses on confidence and masculinity. But here's what Peterson misses. Tate's real skill isn't fighting, it's psychological manipulation. His webcam business required him to become an expert at reading male psychology, understanding exactly what lonely men needed to hear to part with their money. Those same skills, reading desperation, providing hope, creating dependency, are exactly what he uses now. The fighting background is just window dressing on a much more sophisticated psychological operation.
All right. There's an element of what he says that's very attractive to bedroom basement dwelling losers, because he's at least there out in the world, you know, taking the blows, and he's got a fast car and he's flashy and he's attractive to women. But a lot of what he's done, especially with women, doesn't just border into the psychopathic, it crosses the line.
Peterson identifies the target market perfectly: isolated, unsuccessful young men who see Tate's lifestyle and want to escape their current reality. But he's analyzing this like a psychologist studying a natural phenomenon. What he's actually looking at is a predatory business model in action. Tate deliberately cultivates this flashy lifestyle as marketing material because he knows it creates maximum psychological contrast with his audience's current situation. The cars, the women, the international lifestyle, it's not authentic success, it's performance designed to generate sales. And here's the really dark part: Tate learned this exact strategy from his webcam days. Back then, he was teaching women to create fantasy lifestyles that would make lonely men pay for attention. Now he's created his own fantasy lifestyle to make lonely men pay for masculinity courses. The psychology is identical: create an aspirational image, make the target feel inadequate by comparison, then sell them the solution. Peterson sees genuine success. What he's actually looking at is the most expensive marketing campaign in history.
And that's not a good model. It's not an optimal model for people who are trying to progress. But it's a strange thing, because just as cynicism is an improvement over naivety, right, the capacity to be dark is an improvement over the lack of ability to be dark at all. And so Tate is attractive in the way that the shadow beckons to people who are undeveloped.
Peterson's Jungian analysis is psychologically accurate, but it completely misses the business reality. Tate isn't accidentally appealing to the shadow, he's deliberately targeting it because that's where the money is. His webcam business taught him that men's deepest psychological vulnerabilities are also their biggest spending triggers. The shadow integration Peterson talks about, Tate has commodified it. He's literally selling young men their own repressed masculinity back to them at premium prices. But here's the genius of the scam. Real shadow integration would make these men psychologically complete and no longer dependent on external validation. Tate's version keeps them perpetually hungry, perpetually insecure, perpetually meeting the next course, the next level, the next promise of transformation. He's not facilitating shadow integration, he's monetizing shadow starvation.
Right? Because it does. It's like you're neurotic and you're dependent and you're repressed because you're immature and harmless. Well, one way out of that is to stop being harmless. And one of the things you can say about Tate is that he's not harmless.
Peterson sees Tate's dangerousness as an authentic quality that appeals to harmless young men. But look deeper at what "not harmless" actually means in Tate's context. His primary victims aren't his political enemies or cultural opponents, they're the young men who follow him. He's not harmless because he systematically extracts money from the most psychologically vulnerable demographic possible. The webcam business model he perfected was built around financial and emotional exploitation of lonely men. Now he's scaled that same exploitation model to millions of followers who pay him to solve problems he has no intention of actually solving. The dangerousness Peterson identifies isn't masculine strength, it's predatory cunning. Tate is dangerous the way a con artist is dangerous, not the way a warrior is dangerous.
See, this is another thing we need to understand, because I've spent a lot of time, for example, trying to figure out why people are attracted to Andrew Tate. And I know why they're attracted to Andrew Tate. They'd rather be Andrew Tate than an incel. And they're right? It's best to give the devil his due.
This is where Peterson's analysis becomes most dangerous, because he's accidentally providing cover for the grift. Yes, on the surface level, Tate's lifestyle appears preferable to incel misery. But Peterson misses the crucial point. Tate's business model requires his followers to never actually achieve his lifestyle. If they became genuinely successful, confident, and sexually successful, they would stop buying his products. The entire economic incentive structure is designed to keep them in a perpetual state of aspiration without achievement. Look at his course graduates. How many have actually replicated his success? The business model only works if customers stay customers. They're trapped in an expensive middle ground where they pay Tate to feel like they're making progress while remaining fundamentally unchanged.
And then you see Andrew Tate, who's tough and hyper-masculine in an almost manner that's almost a parody, and wealthy and famous, and apparently has women at his disposal, with a fair bit of stress on the idea of disposal. You'd think, well, I'd much rather be him than me. That's the incorporation of the shadow from the Jungian perspective.
Peterson sees psychological development. What's actually happening is psychological exploitation on an industrial scale. The shadow incorporation he describes as the exact mechanism that Tate weaponizes for profit. Young men don't just want to be like Tate, they want to stop being themselves. That self-hatred is the raw material that Tate converts into revenue. His entire content strategy is designed to amplify that self-rejection while positioning himself as the solution. But here's the scam within the scam. Real personal transformation would eliminate the self-hatred that drives the purchasing behavior. Tate has to keep his followers in a state of controlled dissatisfaction, hopeful enough to keep paying, frustrated enough to never stop. This isn't accidental. It's the same psychological manipulation he used in his webcam business, just applied to a different market with a different product. Here's what Jordan Peterson got right. Andrew Tate successfully identified and exploited a massive psychological vulnerability in modern young men. But Peterson's clinical perspective blinded him to the most important truth. This isn't a cultural phenomenon that happened organically. It's a carefully engineered business operation designed to extract maximum profit from psychological pain. Andrew Tate didn't become a masculinity guru by accident. His entire career has been built around one core skill: understanding how to monetize male desperation. Before he was selling confidence courses, he was running webcam operations where the entire business model was built around psychological manipulation of lonely, vulnerable men. Those men paid hundreds or thousands of dollars for the illusion of connection, attention, and validation from women who were coached to exploit their deepest insecurities. The webcam business taught Tate everything he needed to know about his current operation. He learned how to identify the most psychologically vulnerable men. He learned what emotional triggers make them open their wallets. He learned how to create artificial scarcity and urgency. Most importantly, he learned how to sell hope without ever delivering genuine resolution, because men who actually get what they want stop being customers. When the webcam industry became less profitable, Tate simply pivoted his target market and his product. Instead of selling lonely men access to women, he started selling them access to masculinity. But the psychological manipulation techniques remained identical. Create aspiration through lifestyle display. Generate inadequacy through comparison. Promise transformation through purchase. Maintain dependency through partial delivery. The genius of the Tate operation is that it appears to be the opposite of his webcam business. On the surface, webcams exploit men through female sexuality, while masculinity courses empower men through self-development. But the underlying psychology is identical in both cases: identify male insecurity, amplify it through content, then monetize the resulting desperation. Look at the actual structure of Tate's business model. The free content isn't designed to help men, it's designed to create psychological dependency. The paid courses aren't designed to create lasting change, they're designed to generate demand for higher-priced products. The success stories aren't genuine transformations, they're affiliate marketers who profit from recruiting new customers. The entire ecosystem is engineered to keep men in a perpetual state of expensive hope without genuine resolution. Peterson sees young men choosing Tate over incel status, but that's not what's actually happening. Tate has created a third category: the paying customer who's trapped between incel despair and genuine success. These men aren't getting better, they're getting poorer while maintaining the illusion of progress. The most damning evidence is in the results. After years of Tate's influence and millions of course sales, where are the success stories? Where are the confident, successful, genuinely transformed men who credit Tate's teachings? They don't exist in meaningful numbers because the business model doesn't work if they actually succeed. Tate's financial incentive is to keep his customers in a state of perpetual improvement, always progressing, never arriving. This is why attacking Tate's misogyny or controversial statements misses the point entirely. The controversy generates attention, which drives traffic, which creates customers, which generates revenue. The more outrageous Tate becomes, the more his target market feels like they're accessing forbidden knowledge that society doesn't want them to have. The Andrew Tate phenomenon isn't a masculine awakening or a cultural rebellion. It's the most sophisticated psychological grift ever created, engineered by someone who spent years learning how to extract money from male desperation. Peterson decoded the psychology that makes it work, but he failed to recognize that Tate decoded it first and built an empire around exploiting it. The real tragedy isn't that young men are following a controversial figure, it's that they're being systematically exploited by someone who understands their psychology better than they understand it themselves. They're not customers purchasing self-improvement, they're marks in an elaborate con game designed to keep them paying forever while never delivering the transformation they desperately seek.